I walk to work, and when I come in on a day wherein the lights are on and the doors are not open, but you can smell the bakes on the street. You can see that the glass is steamed up, that there's a lot of activity happening within the bakery. It feels really special, and I don't think I can tire of that. My name is Shaheen Peerbhai. I'm the owner and baker at Miel Bakery. The bakery is in London on Warren Street. Miel means honey in French, and I wanted it to be a French name because it is a nod to my training. I don't say Miel is a French bakery, I would say Miel is a French-influenced bakery. On any given day, we're baking 40 different types of items, and this could be various different things. So they could range the breads, the pastries, the viennoiseries, everything else. This is all possible because we have a superb team who follows a very, very thorough, regimented schedule, and everything is done by the minute, by the clock. A typical day for a baker at Miel starts at 6 a.m. The bakers come in. There is trays of croissants and pastries to be loaded up, and you'll hear the clanking of the trays. Downstairs, the bakers will be loading up the bread, so they will score it, load the bread. Once the bread's out, you could put your ear close to the bread and you could hear what is called the song of the bread. It's a gentle crackling sound of the crust. It's pretty special when you take a moment to enjoy it. The idea is that we bake just as much as is needed, and there's also something that's coming out fresh throughout the day. You have a warm cookie to sink your teeth into, or you have a hot loaf of bread. And then you could sort of see that when customers come in and they bite into a croissant, they're like, oh my, this has just come out, this is warm, this is still, the chocolate stick inside the pain au chocolat is still gooey and melted. You know, when that happens, you feel great about having started with just 4 ingredients, flour, butter, sugar, and egg. When you get something right, you feel like everything that you've done until that point has been perfect, and then you want to write it down, and then you want to communicate that to the rest of your team, and then you want to do the same thing again tomorrow, and you do it, and something will always change because the water could be off by 10 grams, or the yeast could be like off by 0.1. You know, there are so many variations. I think that's the beauty of working with live ingredients when it has yeast, when it has sourdough. It essentially just keeps you on your toes no matter what you do. Chasing the perfect pain au chocolat, constantly chasing. You get it, and when you get it, you feel superb. You want to feel that crunch, you want to feel that softness. It has to have that textural contrast when you eat one. You can see the layers, you can see the flakiness of a croissant. When you break into it, you should be covered in croissant. It's not doughy, it just feels like you could eat 10. And that's the kind that makes me very happy, and that's, I think, what everybody should look for in a perfect croissant. I didn't know anything at all about baking. Growing up in India, your household doesn't come with an oven. It's something that I asked my dad to buy me when I turned 17, when I got very curious about cookbooks and baking and things like that. It was like a little sort of box tabletop oven that we could keep on the counter. And that was my first oven, and my parents still have it back home. When I told my parents that I wanted to be a baker, they thought that this was probably not the safest choice because girls don't become chefs, girls aren't bakers, and they wanted me to be safe. They thought that the best thing for me to do was to go to university to get my master's and work in a job. I did all of that, was completely not satisfied, and that's when I decided that I wanted to go to cooking school and really live pastry or live cooking in France. That was really the start of my journey in terms of learning about the exigence that the French put on quality of ingredients, on technique, and it's not about eating for the sake of it, but it's for eating for the pleasure of it. A cannelle starts with very simple ingredients that are made into a batter, then spiked with a bit of rum, rested overnight, and the true joy of a cannelle is only realized the next day when you bake it. And the way we do it here is a very traditional way of doing it, wherein we use copper molds, then we line them with a coating of butter and beeswax. This is what gives it a particular fragrance to the cannelle. It's sort of reminiscent of honey and butter. You want to get that dark caramelized crust on them. That contrast of the crunchy, burnished caramelized outside and the soft, set custardy inside is what makes a perfect cannoli. We source the very best that we can get in the UK. I used to work at a 1 Michelin star restaurant, and they used to have 2 types of eggs. One was the baking eggs and one was the rich yolk eggs to put on the plate. And I was like, no, why can't I use that in the baking? So for me, that has to be everywhere, not just where customers can see, but also when they can't see. It can be one of 1,000 products for a baker, but it's the product for a customer, and that shouldn't be taken lightly. I think it's extremely important for every locality to have their own bakery, because it is, I think, the heart of any neighborhood. It's sort of a common ground for people passing through, whether they work here, whether they live here. Everybody cooks because you need to cook, but baking is something not everybody does. To be able to produce products of a very high quality, it takes a lot of rigor, a lot of grit, a lot of experience, a lot of various different things falling into place. Even the weather is important in that. Baking makes me feel really happy in the way it helps connect with people. I like the gratification of just seeing the product translate to emotions, knowing that a little cake or a little pastry that they take from the bakery is making somebody happy, making somebody smile, really makes my day and makes it feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile. I feel like this is just the baseline, like we have now settled in and this is the beginning of a lot more to come.